Grace and peace to you today. For a year and a half now, our church leaders have worked to provide a safe way to worship and be in community, to continue our work in Christ in the midst of the moving target of COVID-19. We moved from pre-recorded worship to worshiping in the parking lot, to being inside but with significant restrictions, to where we are today, and I'll elaborate on that in a moment. Each month, Council takes a look at our protocols and weighs where we are at the moment. This month, Council decided we can let go of most of the protocols and requirements that we have in place, most noticeably our pre-registration for worship and the cap on the number of people we can have in the sanctuary at one time. The reality is we can easily accommodate more folks than regularly worship inside, and registration has become more of a hindrance than a help. We will continue to wear masks while we are inside, and we encourage distance whenever possible. I know masks are a sticking point for some folks, but signs point to schools requiring them in the fall, and with the combination of young children not being able to be vaccinated, the low numbers of vaccinations in Gaston County, and the possible rise of the Delta variant, Council was not comfortable letting go of this last and the most effective measure just yet. Trust me when I say we all want this to be behind us, but we also want to be intentional about where we are right now. We continue to encourage everyone who is able to be vaccinated. As much as we're able to put the toxic politics aside, health professionals widely affirm that vaccines are safe and the best way to put COVID-19 behind us, as well as an easy way to care for our neighbors and children who are not able to be vaccinated. I've heard a number of questions about when the church will be open again. First, I want to be clear that the church has never been closed, because the church is not the building. During a pandemic, including while not in the church building, we have supported feeding ministries and collected school supplies. We've engaged in faith formation and Christian education and worshiped weekly, as well as welcoming new members and more. Secondly, I don't consider having protocols in place and doing things differently as the same as being closed. That's certainly true now when pretty much the only thing required is to wear a mask indoors. The church has always been open because we are the church. But in terms of it looking like you're used to here, we're pretty close to that right now and only require folks to wear a mask while indoors with other people. However, the truth is also that some of the things that we've learned in the pandemic will never entirely go back to how they were before. And what we're working for is finding a new normal, not an old one. Currently, we have 5 different ways to worship with Holy Comforter, and most of those will continue for a while as folks are still in many different places with their comfort level with the pandemic, as well as their comfort level with being around other people again. Since November, we've been worshiping in the sanctuary, and for a couple of months now, we've been singing in here again, which has been a balm to many of us. On the first and third Sundays of the month at 8:30 in the morning, we worship outside, now under our large tent canopy that allows for shade and shelter. And that's a fun, informal worship that we've enjoyed immensely. During our 10:30 a.m. worship, we stream the service in the fellowship hall and have occasionally had folks worship in there to be around fewer people, to help their kids adjust to being inside again, or other circumstances that call for a different setting than in the sanctuary. We have anywhere from 8 to 18 people who worship regularly in their cars in the parking lot on Sunday morning, listening over the radio and having communion brought to them there. One of our council members said that it's actually her favorite way to worship right now. My family regularly worships this way, and it's become a really neat little community of folks out there. And of course, now we stream our service every week through YouTube and regularly have folks participate in worship this way, including people who are states away. Streaming in particular is here to stay, and we're planning ways to engage folks more who participate in this way. I believe God made people to live in community, and the way that we've known how best to do that has almost always been being in person with one another. But with the rise of technology, we've learned that that's not the only way to do it. And sometimes technology allows us to gather when circumstances otherwise would not allow for it, like when there is distance, we're traveling, when there are health concerns or logistics are challenging. Christ calls us to worship. And I encourage you to find a way to worship that feels comfortable for you. We want you here with us because that is what we know and what feels comfortable and what we're used to. And we look forward to welcoming more folks back as they're comfortable being here. But mostly, we want you to worship, as that is central to who we are in Christ and forms us to live out our identity as Christ's disciples in the world, wherever we are. We look forward to worshiping and being in community with you. God's peace.